Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. In this video, we'll be talking about the Moonlighter Hacking Program, the hackable satellite of the United States military. Please remember to like and subscribe. Alright, let's get right into it. Fact 1. Hacking in space. The Moonlighter Satellite Program is the United States Air Force cybersecurity hacking platform. This is a very innovative feature in that the United States Air Force wants a hacking testbed up in space so that people could attempt to disrupt the satellite using various hacking methods. This is not intended to cause any havoc. In fact, this is actually to help the United States Air Force and Space Force to understand how to protect their satellites. Because when you think about it, modern warfare relies heavily on satellite communications, global positioning systems, and other means of transmission through satellites. With this hacking platform, now the United States Air Force and Space Force could understand what are the vulnerable points of a satellite and how it could potentially be compromised by enemies. By having a hackable platform, they could have hackers tested without too much significant impact to actual militaries. Alright, let's get into the next fact. Fact 2. Cube Satellite. The Moonlighter satellite is not very large. Don't think of it as a gigantic satellite that the United States military typically launches upon rockets. The typical satellites used by the United States military are large satellites capable of transmitting large quantity of communications and data. The Moonlighter is a cube satellite. Cube satellites are much smaller and therefore much easier and less cost to send them up into orbit. With space launches, as you might imagine, the smaller the payload, the more inexpensive it is to launch them. For example, because the Moonlighter is a relatively small satellite, the company who launched it, SpaceX, could pack other satellite payloads with the Moonlighter cube satellite. And therefore, the Moonlighter could be launched at a lower cost because it doesn't need a dedicated full rocket to launch it into orbit. And remember, this is a hacking testing platform designed for hackers around the world who are invited to hack into the satellite. And therefore, it really only needs a simulated environment and communication systems similar to other military satellites, but not at the full scale. And so a cube satellite is more than enough. Alright, let's get into the next fact. Fact 3. Non-US hackers invited. As I mentioned, the Moonlighter is actually a US Air Force program to let people hack into their satellites. However, the United States actually invited several friendly countries to participate in this hackathon, if you will. In fact, Germany was one of the countries that won the top prizes in this hackathon. Of course, Germany was not the only country that was invited. Other European countries that are friendly with the US were invited to hack. And for example, Italy is another country that actually won some of the top 5 spots in the hacking competition based on several criteria that were used to judge how effectively the hackers was able to compromise the Moonlighter satellite. As you can see, it's not just the US hackers, and of course, the US teams also won some prizes at the top 5. Basically, as long as you're able to try to get into a satellite that's already orbiting in space and figure out how to maneuver it or how to capture it, is the ultimate goal. But beyond that, there was also other types of prizes, such as jamming the signals of the satellite or overriding the satellite signals and others. Cool. Let's get into the next fact. Fact 4. Hijack is Topco. As I mentioned in the previous sections, teams around the world were invited to hack into this satellite. There was various criteria in what is constituted as a successful hack. For example, you can override signals, you can capture signals, but most of all, the most top important goal is to control the satellite. And what this means is that the team who was able to capture the satellite, if you will, by being able to modify the satellite's altitude, attitude, orbit location, and other means of moving the satellite without actual US military authorization. If you think about it, that would be the ultimate goal of any enemy trying to hack the satellite. If you can take over the enemy satellite, reprogram it to use it for yourself, or just move it out of position so the enemy, or US military in this case, is no longer able to use satellite to communicate, that would be the ultimate compromise. Because once you take that satellite out of the equation, that whole system is completely disrupted. And can you imagine if the US military was relying on that satellite to communicate enemy positions, surveillance data, and other really critical factors? They would be completely in the dark. And without the satellite, they would have to operate blindly and potentially suffer heavy losses. Cool. Let's get into the next and final fact. Fact 5. Future hackathons. As you're watching this video, the Moonlighter Cube satellite is orbiting above Earth in orbit. Despite the fact that the hackathon has concluded and prizes awarded to the top 5 or 6 teams that was able to achieve their objectives, the Moonlighter satellite is still there. And what this means is that the US Air Force take all the learnings and remediations from the first hackathon, apply them, and then hold another hackathon in the future, and then invite similar teams to participate all over again. They can continue to use and refine the Moonlighter Hacking Testbed so that eventually they could get to a point where it is very cybersecurity hardened and difficult to compromise. This is extremely important because, again, as I mentioned, once the satellite is compromised, for example, the enemy is able to control its location and direction, and also propulsion, they can even use the satellite to ram into other satellites and destroy more constellations of satellites. Alright, that's it for my video today. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. See you next time.